Hello, void and all who inhabit it. It's me, and I have an enhanced fear of encouraging a negative parasocial bond, but I'm willing to make exceptions for milestones. So, if you missed it, this channel has exploded over the past month, and I've had a lot of growth, which I'm super appreciative of. And I want to thank everyone who has subscribed since finding me ever, but particularly if you found me over June. And as a way of returning the favor, I guess, girl, I decided to have a little Q&A. I'm going to try to make this as unedited as possible. I took some notes, but most of this is just going to be me rambling. Also, if this fucking computer runs out of space, it's going to be choppy as heck as well. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's it. So let's get started. The first question is from Michaela, who asked, "Where are you from?" I'm from the DMV by way of Texas. I lived in Texas long enough that I still feel like I have to announce that. So, yeah. Next is from Kayla. Kayla asked, I'd love to know if you are into animation. I don't know if they meant Western animation or anime, but the answer is yes to both. I don't use animation as like the major case study or jumping off point for any of my videos because adult animation fans know their stuff. And I do not, girl. I don't want to get into that. I'm gonna leave it to the Harriana Hooks and the Princess Weeks and the Cherry Bepsies and the Tunerific Tariqs and the Aishayos of the world who know what they are talking about. Speaking of Aishayo, hey girl, she asked 2 questions. What are your favorite video game genres, and are you looking forward to any games that are yet to be released? The first question, my favorite genres are RPGs and FMVs, or full movie videos. A excellent example of a full movie video game is Contradiction. I love that game. It is so good. Please, it's on Steam. I don't know if it's on Steam in England. It should be. It's an English game. Anyway, it's great. Play it. As for the second question, a couple of games that I'm looking forward to are Grand Theft Auto 6 and the new Dragon Age game. Within the next 15 years in which they are released, I will hopefully have a next-gen console and be able to play them. I'm also looking forward to the next addition to the Dark Pictures Anthology series, which is a 8-part horror game that like each part is a different story. It's like a collaborative horror game. You can play with up to 4 people. I don't like horror. I don't want to play them. I like watching other people play them, and the stories are really interesting. So I'm excited for that. I'm also looking forward to Coral Island, which is a farming simulator that's been fully funded on Kickstarter, and Paralives, which is a life simulation game that is in development currently. The next question comes from Chew Life Up, and it is, what are your favorite reality shows? I don't watch reality TV. I think my answers would be Flavor of Love and America's Next Top Model, but I don't really watch reality TV, and I haven't since like 2006. So, next question is from Citrus, who asked, if you could write a TV show, what would it be about? Excellent question. I know this is going to sound terrible, but I don't know. I know that I would want to write a TV show that pulls elements from like Gothic fiction. I submit to script competitions every now and then, and I recently got feedback that one of my scripts reads like Twin Peaks, which I've never watched, and maybe I should, but I guess like if you want an idea of the type of show I would want to make, I guess Twin Peaks is a good example. Or, I hate to say it, Lovecraft Country, kinda, like weird, surreal, not cosmic horror, but Gothic fiction-y type stuff. I know, sorry, that was very vague. Let's move on. Next question came from Zimbo Capetonian, who wrote, I'm a black girl from Zimbabwe living in South Africa, and I need encouragement to start creating my own content, but I have this thing as if no one will want to hear from me? How do you push past that? So if you are interested in any creative field, people will tell you that you should do it because you want to, not because you want to be rich, because money takes time. It takes time for the money to come, right? I think branching off of that, it takes time for external validation to come. It takes time for the algorithm to pick you up, for people to find your videos naturally, for folks to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, it takes time to get all of that. And in the lull in between when you start making videos and when people start finding you, however long that lull is, it can feel like you're doing nothing, like no one wants to hear from you. But it's not that nobody wants to hear from you, it's that they haven't found you yet. And they can't find you if you never make the content, if you never put your thoughts out there. So I don't know if that's like really encouraging. I have a mind that rationalizes things a lot. So just looking at things really objectively and saying like, oh, well, I don't promote my stuff and I don't use tags, so that's why nobody's finding me. It's not that what I'm saying doesn't resonate or wouldn't be of interest to people. It's just that, you know, it takes time for new content to pop up, which I guess is how I push past it. I don't know if that's helpful. It takes time. It doesn't mean nobody wants to hear from you. It just means they haven't found you yet. Next question is from Banny Amore, who wrote, I subbed this month and I don't know why the algorithm took so long to recommend you. See, Zimbo, what I was talking about? Anyway, their question was, what made you want to get on YouTube? Sir, I'm going to pause, move this to my external drive and come back because it cut me off around this time last time. Okay, and we're back. So in 2017, I started co-hosting a podcast in which we talked about like a variety of things, but some of my favorite episodes that we did were the episodes where we like reviewed a movie or talked about media more specifically. And when that podcast ended, I think I just had this latent idea in my mind that you really like talking about media. So something that I did in 2019 was like, I'm forgetting the word, pitch. Oh Lord. I pitched articles to different publications and I got a couple published, but pitching is hard. Pitching is hard, not just because it's like, what am I trying to say in the most succinct way possible, but also if you want to do journalism and like that realm of creative endeavors of where you are constantly pitching things to publications, you have to be fast. If a new movie came out, you have to have a take like before you've even seen the movie. And I don't think fast. So while I really liked writing the media commentary, I couldn't come up with like a viewpoint fast enough. How many times have I said fast? So even though I liked doing it, it wasn't sustainable for me. And again, I was having this idea of, well, I really liked doing a podcast. Maybe I can meld these two things together. So I decided to do this. And the reason I did YouTube instead of actually doing a podcast is two reasons. One, fun fact, all podcast hosting sites you have to pay for. Either it's like SoundCloud and you get like, I think SoundCloud gives you 3 hours free before you have to start paying to host more, or it's like any number of hosting sites where you have to pay a monthly subscription. And I didn't want to pay for something that is still a hobby, is still something I do inconsistently, like when I want to, and I would have felt like I was wasting money to pay for a service that I couldn't guarantee I was going to be using every month, and I didn't want to push myself to use it every month. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is that I like adding B-roll. My first videos don't have any, but once I started placing it in, I found that I really enjoyed it. So that's what made me want to get on YouTube. Next question, Colo Barley sent in 3 questions, but one of their questions is similar to OG Lala's. So I'm going to answer that one first, which is essentially, how do you create your videos? What's the video making process like? How much time do I have before I got to cut this again? Okay, so my video creating process it happens in waves. So the first wave, once I know what topic I want to do, is the writing part. And writing starts with me honestly like talking to myself, and if I know what the topic is, just trying to think of all of the immediate ideas and connections that I have to that topic and dumping it in an Evernote document. After I've done that for like a couple of days, I will comb through and try to make sense of like, what am I actually saying? What in here is maybe cohesive, and like trim the fat. Once I've done that, it's a bit more of talking to myself, brain dumping, collecting articles, finding examples, making notes of where I want B-roll, until I feel like I've gotten all the major points that I want to hit. And then after that, the easy part happens, which is just writing and like making it all look and sound nice. Once that normally takes me like a week to a week and a half. And once I've finished with that, then I can record. And usually right before or right after I record, I also make all of the B-roll. And that's a pretty easy process. And then I edit, and editing happens in 3 waves. The first wave is the rough cut, where I just like chop out all the ums and pauses and messes up. Okay. The second wave is when I add in the intro, the outro, all of the B-roll that I've pre-made, and most of the edits that I want to put in. And then the third cut is when I add in all of the B-roll I missed, because I always miss creating B-roll. I add the music in the background, and if it is a video where it's audio only, that's when I add in the repeating GIF, because otherwise my computer will slow down and blow up. So yeah, that's like a rough and dirty way of how I create things. If you want more details on how I write scripts, I can maybe go over that, but it's really messy. It's honestly just like me talking to myself again and again and again, and then eventually like making sense of something. So yeah. Okay, back to Colo Barley. One of their other questions was, what advice do you have for people who also want to make video essays but have no experience in video editing? If you have a Mac or a PC, I don't know if Linux, I don't know who uses Linux, but maybe you do. But Windows and Mac have free video editing software on them. On Mac, it's iMovie. On Windows, it's Windows Movie Maker. I don't know, but your operating system has a free editing software on it. It's really comprehensive and basic and easy and not intimidating. I would encourage you to like click around with that. I used iMovie for a while, but then while it's comprehensive and easy, there are some things that are a bit more difficult to do because it's not meant to do a lot. And so I started shopping around for free video editing software that was a bit more comprehensive. How much time am I at? Okay, sorry. I looked around for free video editing software that was a bit more comprehensive. The best one I have found to date is Shotcut. It is more difficult to use because it's meant to look like a Premiere Suite video editing software. But if you want to do more challenging things that you can't necessarily do in iMovies or Windows Media Maker, I really recommend that as well. But yeah, the video editing process to me is the easiest part. It's the longest part because my computer is slow, but like you don't have to do much. Like, take it from me, my first like 5 videos is just a repeating GIF in the background and me talking over it with some music. Like, it doesn't have to be a lot. That would be my advice. And also use the free stuff that's already on your computer. It's easy. It's meant to be easy. And you can probably do all you would like to do in the beginning with that software. The last thing I'll say, hopefully it doesn't cut me off, but Adobe has a creator camp for Premiere Pro. I don't know what it's like. It starts next week. I signed up for it. I'll put a link below because I know they have another one in October, but ideally it will also teach people how to use Premiere Pro. So I would also recommend checking out things like that. I don't know if Final Cut, is that what it's called? If they have one as well, but like free webinars that teach you how to use video editing software, I would also suggest. But again, it don't gotta be complex. Like, you just need to have whatever you're saying is the most important part, and like maybe putting some pictures on the screen, and you can figure it out as you go. Okay, the next question, we're back after that brief commercial break, was from Island of Ideals. First of all, I read this as Island of Deals like 3 times, but Island of Ideals also has a couple of questions. They asked, which video that you've made thus far has been the most fun? Let's start there, because then I can timestamp this more easily. The video I've made that has been the most fun, it would be a tie between the video, sorry, I'm not looking at the camera, the video about Molly and the video about Twilight, the like Twilight formula. Both of those were fun to me because they came really, really easily. It was like Jimmy Neutron brain blast, getting all of these ideas about what I wanted to say, which was fun to me. I will say it wasn't fun finding all of that B-roll, like going through 30 episodes of Insecure and all of that, but the actual writing part was really, really fun to me. They also asked which one was the most difficult. The morality video was the most difficult. If it isn't clear, I'm not very good at being comprehensive and like clear in what I'm trying to say, and like trying to coagulate my thoughts into a succinct set of searchable terms to look for an article that connected to what I was trying to say about morality in superhero movies and TV shows was so hard. I was like, I don't like philosophy, no shade, sorry out there if that's your jam, but I was just like struggling to make what I was thinking a set of words that could be comprehended by other human beings. So that's definitely the most difficult. And lastly, Island of Ideals asked, what's the last book you've read and enjoyed, or media you've consumed if you don't like to read? I love to read. I, for the past like 4 years, have had a goal of reading a book a month, which in getting into book 2, I'm like, that's nothing, baby. But the last book I've read that I really enjoyed was Act Your Eve Brown. I read that last month. Mwah, mwah. It's so good. It is so good. It is so good. It's a romance novel though. I think the last non-romance novel that I've read and I really, really enjoyed was Black Sun by Rebecca Rowan Hoyce. That book is so good. Calm down. So yeah, that's my answer there. Next question comes from Hades. They put a TLDR, too long didn't read, but I have a long answer, so I'm going to read your long question. Hades wrote, Scandal by Shonda Rhimes was an amazing show at one point, but I will never forget how degrading it became around season 3 or 4. The other characters constantly abused and demeaned Olivia, including her own mother calling her degrading names, and never sat right with me how Shonda Rhimes allowed a black woman to be portrayed this way. Olivia went from a strong go-getter to the successful swirler / new mammy to a mix of a scheming, I don't know if that's an ableist word, and an unacknowledged abuse victim. The show never acknowledged that she didn't have genuine black friends, was a functioning alcoholic, and many other things. And while Shonda didn't write on the show, Shondaland Productions' How to Get Away with Murder had a very similar 360 with Annalise Keating. But no one seems to talk about this, and it boggles my mind. My question is, why do you think black writers / showrunners / producers feel so comfortable degrading black women on TV and in such an overt way? This has troubled me for a while, particularly with Shonda, but again, it doesn't seem like people discuss this much. I feel like I should cut and come back. Okay, we're gonna try. If I get cut off, I'm so sorry. So the easy answer is that degrading black women is the status quo, and like it's easy to, and particularly if you're trying to become, if we're looking at black writers, showrunners, producers specifically, if you're trying to become successful in any industry that is dominated by the hegemony, like a hegemonic ideal, you will bend to that ideal in order to become successful, right? I think that's the easy answer, is that it's easy to, who gonna check me, boo? Nobody. The difficult answer, though, is a question that what do we mean by degrading? Because I I feel stronger about Annalise because I actually finished How to Get Away with Murder, but I don't think she or arguably Olivia are degrading depictions of Black women or badly constructed characters. I think they are messy and unlikable at times and morally ambiguous for the entirety of their stories, but they're also complex and developed and intentionally written that way. You might not like what they do, but the show makes it a point that you understand why it was done, which I think is a good depiction of a complex character. And I'm not saying this to have smoke for Hades directly, like nothing but respect for my Lord of the Underworld. But I'm saying this because I remember a lot of criticism of, again, Annalise specifically, particularly coming from Black viewers, was this idea of you can't show a Black woman behaving like that. Having her do XYZ is bad representation. But characters with flaws are not flawed depictions of characters, like it's not bad to see these people struggling with things. And I don't think it's a humiliating depiction of Black women to see them struggling with to see them battling certain things, behaving certain ways. And an interesting point about the alcoholism, an interesting point about the alcoholism is that that's like a Shonda Rhimes thing. I took the Shonda Rhimes' masterclass, and one of the bits of advice, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something like have a behavior that your character does to show their emotion without like explicitly saying it. I'm butchering it. Point is, her thing is alcohol. So Olivia drinks wine, Annalise drinks vodka, Meredith Grey drinks tequila. Like it's a Shonda Land thing to have like the main morally ambiguous female character like have a drink of choice. And with Annalise, something that was done that it sounds like wasn't done with Olivia was folding in alcoholism as an issue for her and having that be a part of her storyline. And again, I think it was done well, and that's not degrading to see this strong, successful Black woman actually be dealing with all of these things and self-destructive behaviors. Annalise and Olivia are meant to be different depictions of Black women. They're meant to push the boat out, to challenge the status quo. And the pushback against that challenge didn't just come from people who wanted to maintain the status quo, but from people who were saying, you can't challenge it like that. Oh, they cut me off, Joe. Anyway, I was bringing all of that up to say that I think it's important to keep in mind who is truly creating shallow, harmful depictions, degrading images of Black women, and who is creating characters who are unlikable, who do things that make us uncomfortable, but who are still necessary to see, and how conflating those two things as the same can do more harm than good. That is not to say that Annalise and Olivia are exempt from criticism, that their stories and their shows shouldn't be looked at and maybe pulled apart in different ways, right? I have 2 whole videos on Michaela Pratt and like my issues with that character, but I don't think that just because they're doing unlikable things or they have stories that make us uncomfortable, that means that they are degrading, that they are a degrading depiction of Black women, and like just cautioning away of feeling like the only way to present Black women is to swing the pendulum in the opposite direction. Again, not saying that Hades is doing that, but them using those 2 women as examples just made me think of a lot of other stuff. So, next question comes from Imani, who asked, what are your thoughts on divested Black women? So I know from my analytics that at one point in time, people who were looking for videos by and about divested Black women were being suggested my desirable dark-skinned women trope video. Not sure why, but hey, the algorithm works in mysterious ways. That being said, I am not a divested Black woman. I have no interest in talking about divested Black women, and none of my analysis is ever coming from that point of view. Those are my thoughts. Next question is from Celine. Oh, fuck. This is going to be a long one. Celine asked, how do you feel about Lovecraft Country being canceled? As much as I was disappointed with the first season, I was dying to see what would happen in season 2. So, unpopular opinion time. I am not surprised that Lovecraft Country did not get renewed, and I'm also not disappointed that it didn't get renewed. So, where to start? I've done a couple videos on Lovecraft Country, but illustratively, my issue with the show is that it's inconsistent. Like, with character development, which is mostly what I focused on, it's inconsistent there, but it's also inconsistent in its structure. And it's unclear if the show is meant to be a regular multi-season drama series or if it was just meant to be a limited run adaptation of a novel. By the time we get to the end of the first season, and especially after reading the book, I felt like the show was the second one. It was a limited run. And so even though people were like speculating about what season 2 would be like, I figured it was going to be like Watchmen and there would be no season 2. And while I think there is a lot they could have done better in season 1, I was okay with the story ending at episode 10. Right? So when they announced it, I was like, of course, right? But then Misha Green tweeted out an excerpt from the season 2 show Bible that detailed a new story where the United States is chopped into 4 different regions. And a lot of people then had this idea of, oh, this made white executives uncomfortable. That's why they canceled this show. Which, like, did it? Maybe. I don't know, girl. I don't work for HBO. But what caught my eye more than the map was the sentence at the top of the screenshot that said something like, for season 2, we're doing a whole new story with a whole new America, which to me sounded like Misha Green was trying to turn Lovecraft Country into a show like American Horror Story or like Dark Picture anthologies where each season is a different story following a different cast of characters, which could be interesting, right? And again, based off of people's reactions on Twitter, I think people would want to watch that, but that's not what Lovecraft Country was pitched as and like marketed as. Lovecraft Country was marketed as an adaptation and continuation of Matt Ruff's 2016 novel. And that sentence didn't sound like it's Game of Thrones or Pretty Little Liars where you ran out of book material, so you're just making shit up. It sounded like you were changing the entire direction of the show. And I totally get why that would be enough to say, no thank you. No, thank you. But then she tweeted again, and it was another excerpt that was clarifying what one of the regions on the restructured map was supposed to be. And it described the White Lands as basically like free range terrain for zombies who had became zombies as a consequence of this spell called the Origin Spell. It's unclear if the Origin Spell is what happens at the end of season 1 or what have you, but again, people were super interested. And from like a really nerdy point of view, there's that, but also you'll be chop suey boy. What was I saying? Oh yeah. From a nerdy point of view, Lovecraft Country is a story using Lovecraftian horror and like mixing it with racial horror, right? Lovecraftian horror is also known as cosmic horror. It deals with the unknown and the inconceivable and religion and faith and madness and science. It is a blend of the spooky and the spacey, right? It is not zombies, at least not in the way that we perceive zombies, like The Walking Dead, where there's a virus that can infect people. The closest we have to zombies in a cosmic horror type of story would be something like The Evil Dead. But even that isn't a virus. It is somebody read something they weren't supposed to, and now people's being possessed by demons. Lovecraft Country Season 2, what Misha Green posted as Lovecraft Country Season 2 is not being produced, at least not as that show. So I don't know what she had planned, but I wonder if what she had planned leaned closer to the Walking Dead version of zombies and not the Evil Dead version of zombies, which aren't even called that. And somebody was like, that's not cosmic horror either. So that's another reason to say no. And then it was announced that Misha Green struck a deal with Apple TV, Apple Plus TV, is that what it's called? And will have like multiple years to develop projects, right? So I was going to end my thoughts at this isn't even the right flavor of horror that you're trying to produce here. But hearing this news that she struck a deal with Apple TV solidified another thought that I had about why she even shared these tweets, which was, I thought that she shared those tweets about the show 2 Bible, the season 2 Bible, to get people to pull what happened with The Expanse. When The Expanse got canceled, a lot of fans were complaining about it on social media, and it was enough to get the show picked up by Amazon, and they finished the show on Amazon Prime. Is it finished? It's finished, right? Girl, I don't know, I'm way behind. But I was like, oh, that's what Misha Green is trying to do. She's trying to get people to make such a fuss that she's able to use that interest to get the show renewed somewhere else. But seeing this deal that she struck with Apple TV, maybe the goal isn't to get Lovecraft Country renewed, but to get her own like horror anthology series a la Lena Waithe that people will be interested in and will be drawn to, which will draw people to Apple TV. Because again, I think that idea is interesting. I think people want to hear it, and I think she could pitch it and get it picked up by anywhere. But it seems like she doesn't have to pitch it because she already has a multi-year deal with Apple TV. So long story short, I'm okay with Lovecraft Country being canceled. I don't mind. And I don't think what Misha Green put on Twitter will be the last that we see of that story idea from her. Also, just to be clear, do I think white discomfort had a role to play in the show not getting renewed? Probably. Doesn't it always? But I don't think it was just that. And I don't think pointing and saying, oh, she wanted to do something that was too radical, so they silenced her, is the full answer. From what the limited stuff that we've seen, it seems like the shift was going to be grander than just having a topic that might make white people uncomfortable. Ooh, what we doing with time? Oh, Lord Almighty. All right, next question is from Mayan. Okay, so Mayan said, I would like your thoughts / perspective on the lack of intimacy that's not sexual in romance movies. But they left this as a comment on my video where I said, like, let me know what things you'd like me to talk about. So Megan, if you're watching, can you clarify if you meant you want my thoughts in a video or you want my thoughts in this Q&A? I will hazard on the side that it's the first one, that it's for a whole nother video. But really briefly, I'll say that I think we often don't get intimacy that isn't sexual in romance movies or even romance books, because the plot is mostly driven by angst and tension and building this longing desire and having it erupt in an explosion, also known as an orgasm. And we can't do that if we're building other things, right? Like the focus is to keep these people deprived. And if you're deprived, it's kind of harder to build other moments of intimacy, which is whack. It's whack, but like very briefly, I think that's like my first thought, that we don't get intimacy that isn't sexual because the emphasis is on building up the most tension to have that sexual intimacy have the biggest payoff. Bro, I just tried to drink my mic. Okay, last question for our last question, we're returning to Colo Barley, who asked, how do you feel about the faux woke trend of writing in media for the past 5 to 7 years? Basically, the type of media that comes from a writer's room that know a lot of young people are passionate about social justice, but when they try to pander to that demographic, the execution just flops. The gag is that a lot of the people in media are still, a lot of the powerful people in media are still white men between the ages of 40 and 75. And not a great example, but an example because I watched it recently and it's still bothering me. The Covenant is a movie that was written by like 2 white men who were like 60 at the time. And it's a movie about a bunch of kids in high school. And there is a big dissonance in what like 60-year-old white men in 2006 thought of high school children and how they are actually acting. And we see this all the time in multiple movies and TV shows where like there is a clear gap in understanding of how to youth be acting, you know. I think the faux woke trend is just another iteration of like, this is what the young people want. And instead of hiring young people, because that would require you to give up your power, your space, your access, your voice in the room, you know, instead of doing that, we're just going to like give a miming of what we think the people want instead of just like going to the people, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think the faux woke trend is just another iteration of like old white men refusing to give up power by allowing other people to produce media, but still wanting to profit from what they perceive or what they have been told the children are interested in these days, which is a bummer. And thankfully is kind of happening less because more different types of people are writing. I'm sorry, I think it's going to rain. Yeah, I think I think that was comprehensive. I think that made sense. Lord, okay, my brain is starting to align with the times and deciding that it is time to put together these like 6 different clips and try to make a cohesive video that hopefully is enjoying. I should have scripted a conclusion. Let's run the outro, shall we? All right. If you made it to the end, thank you for making it to the end. This was a discombobulated mess, so I truly appreciate you even listening to just one portion of this. As I mentioned in the beginning, I think I had to film the intro a couple times, so I don't remember, but I'm moving soon, so hopefully we will be back to regularly scheduled content before the end of August. But if you don't see me till September, enjoy the rest of your summer. Wear sunscreen and bug spray and a mask. Have fun. Be safe. Until next time, I'll catch you in the next echo chamber.